The story opens in a luminous, high-stakes setting. The Galactic Council Chamber, a grand hall of bioluminescent panels that represent 73 distinct species. The chamber is formal and ritualized. At its center is Ambassador Zixter, also spelled Zixthor in parts of the transcript, an imposing dragon-like diplomat whose crimson-to-gold scales and four-folded wings signal heritage and authority. Around her foreclaw gleams an ancient ceremonial ring, a band of compressed starfire reserved for the Draconis Imperium's highest envoys. The council meets to decide humanity's petition for membership, and, in a solemn pronouncement delivered through translation matrices, Zixter declares the petition denied. Humans lack technological parity, cultural unity, and genetic stability required for full membership. The human delegation receives the blow in silence. It's a known risk. Humanity only achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago, an infant species in galactic terms. The Chamber's decision sets the power dynamics and political stakes. The Council represents millennia of interspecies norms and gatekeeping, and humanity is cast as the underdog, dismissed on multiple grounds. This opening establishes the bureaucratic coldness of interstellar politics, the weight of ritual and relic, and the large contrast between ancient civilizations and newly risen humans. Behind the formalism, the city beyond the crystal spires reveals a darker side, Station Harmony's shadow districts, home to refugees and the rejected. The Council's ruling isn't confined to rhetoric, it shapes lives. The denial is not only a political rejection, but also the precursor to the human character's struggles in the margins. By the end of this section, the audience understands. High-level institutions have power to decide fate, and a single symbol, the ring, carried by a seemingly insignificant human, may foreshadow a tectonic shift. The scene primes the viewer for a pivot from systemic dismissal to a personal, intimate confrontation that will challenge centuries of assumptions. Shift from marble halls to the cramped, recycled air alleys of Station Harmony, where societal margins collect the discarded, refugees, failed colonists, and forgotten children. Here we meet Harper, a 9-year-old human orphan wrapped in a thin jacket, who watches the Council's glittering spires from a distance. Her backstory is compressed and tragic. Both parents were lost during a failed colony expedition when their transport encountered a spatial anomaly. She's been shuffled between temporary shelters, too young and poor to return to Earth. The station's denizens barely notice her. An alien vendor, a Krillian merchant, calls her human spawn and recoils when she brushes past. The moment reveals pervasive xenophobia and disdain for humanity among some species. Enter Gabriel, a self-appointed guardian, 17, a human teen who has survived 2 years in the station's lower levels and looks after younger refugees. He rescues Harper from a stumble and reassures her, establishing their bond. Gabriel is protective, pragmatic, and weary. Harper is small, brave, and driven by a personal attachment to a relic. When the dragon diplomat Zixter emerges from a side entrance, Harper does something unthinkable. She runs toward the ambassador. Gabriel's immediate fear. He calls her back, sprints after her, and reaches her just as guards react. Crystallizes the tension between the smallness of human life and the enormity of galactic authority. But the child reaches Zixter first. The contact sequence is cinematic. Harper standing breathless before a gargantuan being, calling out Mrs. Dragon, revealing a ring on a thin chain. Guards raise particle weapons. An embarrassing, potentially violent encounter begins. The stakes here are human-sized but charged with cosmic implications. Gabriel's fear is not only for Harper's safety, but for the diplomatic crisis it could spark. This section establishes the emotional core, a protective friendship, an orphan's audacious hope, and the dangerous collision between fragile humanity and ancient interstellar order. It prepares us for the surprising recognition that changes everything. This is the pivot, the moment when the intimate meets the epic. Harper produces a tarnished ring, small and human-sized, yet made of a strange metal that emits a faint inner light. Zixter, the dragon ambassador, reacts visibly, scales shifting through colors only shown during profound shock, wings unfurling slightly, an entire species' history reflected in a glance. She asks to see the ring and compares it to her ceremonial band. The patterns, the compressed starfire core, the design, identical in miniature. The impossible realization takes hold. This ring is not a mere trinket. It's a mantle artifact from a Draconis colony program. Zixter's voice trembles as she queries Harper's lineage. Harper recites a multicultural family name, Nakamura Okono-chan, and tells a child's memory of an other name that predated current family knowledge. Driven by urgency, Zixter activates a holographic interface, calling up star charts, ancient records, genetic sequences. She drills into her species' past. 12,000 years ago, her people launched a colony ship called the Prometheus. It never arrived and was presumed lost. Only colony leaders carried those rings, and the technology behind them cannot be replicated. It has been lost even to the Draconis Imperium. The implication is seismic. The Prometheus colonists may have crashed on a primitive world, Earth, and integrated with native populations. Over millennia, genetic mixing and drift would mask the origin, but traces remain. Zixter concludes, humans carry Draconis DNA, fragmented but present. This revelation reframes humanity, not a marginal newcomer, but a branch of a lost offshoot of an ancient galactic civilization. The political consequences become immediate. The ring is proof that humans are tied by lineage and heritage to one of the Council's founding peoples, undermining previous arguments about genetic instability and cultural insufficiency. The scene gives a clear cause and effect chain: artifact, recognition, archival confirmation, genetic implication. It also deepens character dynamics. Zixter's shock softens into wonder and protectiveness. Gabriel's confusion morphs into dawning comprehension, and Harper's simple act of showing her ring becomes the catalyst for spectacular change. Emotionally, the section moves from awe to potential redemption. Narratively, it creates the factual axis on which the Council's stance will be challenged. After the revelation, the story moves from shock to political upheaval and finally to resolution. News of the ring spreads like wildfire through Station Harmony and up to the Council's chambers. In short order, the Galactic Council reconvenes in an emergency session, symbolism of how a single human child can reframe an interspecies grand jury. Zixter now holds Harper's hand as she addresses the assembly, announcing new evidence of human genetic heritage and moving to reconsider humanity's petition. Debate erupts, illustrating the Council's fractured perspectives. Some species cling to old gatekeeping logics. Others respond to lineage and precedent. Zixter's intervention is decisive. She cuts through procedural noise with moral clarity. Humanity didn't just survive. They transformed a harsh world into civilizations and ultimately reached for the stars with creativity and determination that honor their ancestors. The argument reorients the Council's earlier grounds for denial. Rather than focusing on raw metrics of technology or present-day cultural unity, Zixter foregrounds origin, resilience, and the symbolic legitimacy of ancestry. The result is a compromise that mirrors political realpolitik. 3 months later, Earth receives notice of probationary acceptance into the Council. It is not full, unqualified membership, but it is a watershed moment, official recognition that shifts humanity's status in the galaxy. The personal payoff follows. Harper stands in the Council chamber, no longer homeless. The ring hangs about her neck as the emblem of her found lineage. Gabriel has been appointed youth ambassador, elevated from street guard to a representative voice. Zixter's fearsome smile toward Harper becomes a tender epilogue. Welcome home. The ending ties political change back to human belonging. Theme-wise, the story celebrates resilience, the power of artifacts to rewrite history, and the ethical impact that recognition and empathy have across species lines. For YouTube, this final section gives a succinct emotional closure and a visual tableau suitable for a moving final shot. The small human child flanked by ancient symbols, an entire species past stitched into the present, and a nascent hope for shared future ties.